Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 6 on the Back to Basics series. Today is at least my favorite episode, I think, in the Back to Basics series thus far. But in this episode we're going to be doing seed starting, and we're going to be showing you all the basics to seed starting. Sindy, are you ready? You're going to get your hands dirty?
Yes.
And I will help you for this one because there's a lot of seed starting. So we're going to be starting everything for the 2017 gardening season that needs to be started from seed. So that brings me to the first part of this episode, which is, what do you want to start from seed? So oftentimes a lot of people just assume that starting from seed indoors is the best option to getting an earlier start to the garden. And that actually couldn't be further from the truth. There's certain things that if you start indoors, you're actually going to be hurting its chances of doing well once you move it outside. Things like root vegetables. So you do not want to start carrots, radishes, beets, turnips, none of that stuff. Do not start it indoors or even in the cells here. They're better actually started directly in ground. So those are called direct sown seeds. Other things that you do not want to start indoors or even in cells like this, corn. Corn just does a terrible job. Other things, obviously potatoes, you start with seed potatoes, so they don't go in here either. So the things we do want to start are things that need a little more time to mature, things that they need a little head start. So these would be things like tomatoes, peppers, lettuce, Swiss chard, kale, things like that, broccoli, cabbage, things we'll be starting today. You'll see what we're starting. So the next thing you want to do is, once you've gotten your seeds selected, and you can go back to episode number 2, selecting the seeds. If you have not yet seen that episode, that's going to help you pick the right type of seed for your region. And then once you have your seeds, next thing you're going to need is your seed starting mix. That was last episode, episode number 5. So you're going to want your seed starting mix. Once you've got your seed starting mix and your seeds, you're going to want to get your seed starting trays. Now, these can be a bunch of different things. I like to use the 288 cell trays because they consolidate space. They're very small on space. And so you can get a lot of plants in a small area, and since we're using grow lights, that area is at a premium. So I wouldn't use big cells. Oftentimes we get asked, why not use the 6 cells or the 4 cells that you get at like the normal greenhouse? They will eventually go into those, if not directly into the ground. But it's just, this is a temporary holding place to get them started, so that we're not using a lot of space to get our seeds started. Because if you're using like a 2-inch pot to start one seed, let's say that seed doesn't sprout, that's like 4 square inches of your space that's dedicated to one variety that didn't sprout. So it's just much easier to use these.
Any tips?
Well, the biggest tip I would have is to start in the center of the tray and push it out. You'll find that the exterior holes will have less soil in them over time. But basically, by starting in the center, you're going to just keep working outwards until you have pretty much 100% of the cells full. And we're going to pre-moisten them so that we can see which cells need a little more soil. And by having the right type of soil, it's not going to hold on to too much water at all. We can keep watering this until basically until the cows come home. So that way we have a real good even level of soil in each cell. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our seed starting nozzle. This is actually made by Dram, and it's actually on our website. You can find it. I'll post a link in the description box for it. It basically has 1,000 micro holes, so that when you turn it on, it actually simulates a very fine rain. Oftentimes when you're pre-moistening or watering your seeds before they sprout, you use too hard of a water, and what that does, it actually compacts soil. It splashes soil out. It's actually really harmful to the seeds. All right, go straight down. Straight down. See? Because when you go on an angle, rain does not come on an angle. So when you water, it's best to water right over top of the trays like this, And then once it's moist, it won't move around as much. So you can do this now.
Doesn't it have enough water now?
Here you go. Over on these trays, these need a lot more. Okay.
I think it's good.
All right. All right, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put soil back on here. So I'm going to pre-moisten this, and we're going to put some soil back in these cells here to fill up where they were, basically where the soil was displaced. All right, Cindy, so we're going to start our seeds. Now we have all the seeds that we're going to start, but the thing we want to do is we want to kind of sort them out by germination times. So things like peppers and tomatoes, they can be started together. Things like most of your herbs, they should be started together. Typically things that are in the same family. So peppers and tomatoes, they're in the same family. A lot of your greens, a lot of your cabbages, broccoli, they're all in the brassica family. They'll all generally have the same kind of time to germination. So kale, broccoli, cabbage, we're going to start those in a tray. Tomatoes and peppers, we'll start them in a tray. Most of our herbs, we'll start those in a tray. So we can go ahead and separate those out, and then you can start putting the seeds in the trays.
What?
All right, Cindy, so you're going to use these plant labels and this marker to write the names because that way you know what you're planting. But the reason why we're using this marker right here is because it's actually a garden permanent marker, and that means that it won't, it's UV resistant ink. You'll find that oftentimes if you use like a Sharpie, by the time by the time it gets wet and it's out in the sun for 2 or 3 weeks, you won't even know what you planted anymore.
Okay. Just one?
Yep, just one. Which one are you planting right now?
Ancho. I have so much seeds left over.
That's the thing. I mean, seriously, honey, if you plant seeds wisely and you don't just spread them all willy-nilly, they go a long way, don't they? Mm-hmm. I mean, you can really truly get a ton of bang for your buck. That's why I don't understand why people, starting from seed, had such an issue getting the plants they need. I mean, people they'll sometimes buy like 6 or 7 packets of seed. I'm like, you don't realize you just bought like 400,000 seeds. I mean, if you buy like chamomile, our packets have like 2,000 seeds per packet, and there have been people that buy 4 or 5 different packets of chamomile. I'm like, you don't need 10,000 plus seeds. I mean, unless you have a chamomile farm.
No, big red. Here's a sweet pepper. I think that's about what I'm gonna need. Peppers are so much easier.
Yeah, I do love peppers versus other.
Shoots. One bounced on that side.
All right, and so due to the magic of editing, 2 or 3 hours have passed. It does take quite a while to plant this many seeds, but obviously they've all been planted. And the next thing we've done is we just took some pre-moistened seed starting mix. We tossed it over the top of the seeds, gave them all a quick pat down so that they were just buried about a 1/4 inch thick. The reason why we do that is because we want the seeds to be buried, because seeds sprout better in darkness. The only exception to that is a few seeds that we have not yet planted that do better on the top of the soil. So we don't even need to get into that right now, because pretty much 99.9% of the seeds you're going to do better in darkness. So we just put them under some soil, and then what we've done is just took the watering and we just watered over it again with the nozzle. So now they are ready to go. And do you have any final questions?
Okay, so I guess what is the time length of when you're expecting these to start sprouting? And yeah, I guess we might do another episode with a little bit more questions of these, but I was just curious, like, I guess going tray by tray. Okay,
well, so the big thing is, most of your seeds will sprout in between 4 and 8 days. Oh, yeah. So most of your seeds should be up in about that time. Some of your other ones can take 1 to 2 weeks. Even some of your peppers can take about even 2 to 3 weeks for some of your hotter peppers. So it really will vary, but most of them should be up in about 4 to 8 days. One thing we can do is by putting them underneath those lights, it's going to be warm. The secret is to keep them warm and moist. These right here, these trays, if you pick them up, they kind of bow in the middle. That's because they're wet, okay? They don't need to be wet. We should be able to pick them up, and there should be no bowing in them, but they shouldn't be dry. If they feel super light and you can just pick them up and feel like you almost throw them, they're way too dry, and the seeds actually, you'll have poor germination. This, if you kept them this wet for a very long time, you'd have seed rot. This, we just gave them a real good soaking. I mean, a super, super good soaking, so that we made sure that there was 100% moisture throughout. But they will dry. We won't need to water these for another 2 to 3 days, but we'll keep an eye on them. And so keep them warm, keep them moist, and they're gonna do fine. We won't even have to turn the lights on, which we'll do an episode on grow lights, so don't worry about that. But we actually can just keep these underneath the grow lights with the grow lights turned off. Okay. And then once we start seeing sprouts, then we'll turn the grow lights on. So that's for another Back to Basics series. But if you do you have any more questions? No, it was pretty simple to do just one seed per cell, or a couple, depending on the size of it. How much dirt did you get underneath your nails? Not as much as you did. I think you did more of the digging out, and I did more of the planting. Hey, awesome. You did a great job, though. So, hey, I hope you all enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something new. If you have any questions, post them in the comments box below. We'd love to hear them. And this was definitely a longer Back to Basics series, but there's just, seed starting is something that we have a lot of questions on, but it's really not that difficult. You start with a good seed starting mix like we talked about in the Back to Basics episode 5. You start with the right seeds. Really, it's not that difficult. You can overcomplicate just about anything with gardening, but you don't have to. So keep it really simple, and we're gonna be good to go. So, all right, hey, hopefully you all enjoyed. Hopefully you all are remembering to grow big or go home, and we'll catch you later. See ya. Bye.